aluminum foil and I'll shape it roughly the size of the sculpture I'm going to be doing. And this is mostly because you don't want a solid chunk of clay. It won't bake properly and it's a massive waste of clay. So, I'm sorry if that's a little noisy. I'm going to be tearing off multiple pieces here until I get the shape about right. Excuse me. Alright. So what I'll be doing is laying thin pieces of clay, like roughly this thick, over top of it. But I need to get a little bigger and I need to start the head. So the creature that I'm making is a type of chimera. Modern portrayals of a Baku look more like a tapir, but that, I'm not sure if it's because the word Baku can also refer to a tapir or if it's just change in time. But the original Baku is actually a mix of multiple different creatures. So I'm going to be doing kind of a mix of my own style, the tapir type, and the more traditional. Another piece here. I think I'm going to have him sitting up so that I can show his paws, because that'll be cute. Alright. I need a lot more for the body, and then we should be good. I can start the clay. I apologize, I know aluminum foil is very noisy. I think a few more sheets and then we should be good for the base. His eyes are fairly large, so we gotta do pretty big. And it's okay if this isn't perfect, I just need a rough shape that I can wrap the clay around, and then I'll mold the clay the way that it's supposed to be. I just need a basic base to go off of. Although the better and more accurate it is, the easier it is. Alright. That's probably roughly okay. And I did choose some eyes for him, for these. I was basing it off one of the creatures that make up the parts of the Baku, and one of them is elephant. So I looked at elephant eyes, and they all seem to be roughly large, yellowish in color, and they have large pupils, so that seemed fitting. So I chose those. They're just cheap little glass eyes. You can buy them in bulk on like Amazon or other places online. One more. Wondering why he has a long nose, it's because he's gonna have a bit of a trunk. It's the original Baku did. I'm going to shorten it a little bit, and go for more of a taper-like head. But I kind of want to do it as traditional as I can. But in a cutesy way, like I usually sculpt. Alright. Let's see, the clay's going to add a good bit of... Okay, I think that's a good way to start. You can see I've got the head shape, the basic side. I usually do the legs solid, depending on how thick they are. Just got to be careful that the clay doesn't get too thick. I'm going to take a second here to turn the heat off in my room. It's getting really hot. Alright, so it should be good for the foil. And I'll take these pieces, near the middle bit, stretch. Okay. Maybe the nose a little too big. So yeah, start wrapping it around. And this initial process, it doesn't look too good. Usually when you wrap it around, you have to sculpt it quite a bit, but it takes time. So the creatures that usually make up a Baku, it varied a little bit when I looked it up, but usually it was a combination of several. So it has the trunk of an elephant and some tusks, usually like an elephant. I'm going to shorten the trunk a little bit so it has a little bit of the taper look, because the more modern portrayals of Bakus that I'm familiar with look like tapers. It has the ears of a rhinoceros, so they're kind of cute and folded over. Some of the things I read said it had the body of a bear, but not everything I read said that. Also, some of the traditional drawings had it almost, a bunch of them actually, had its body kind of speckled, so I might try to mimic that. It has the legs of a tiger, so it's got striped legs and paws, which is why I have it sitting up, because I like showing off the little toe beans. I think they're cute. And the tail of an ox. So that should be fairly accurate. The drawings online that I saw, old and new, all look a little different. But I'm going to try to do roughly that. I may have to pull up some reference photos to work from. But I have a pretty good notion of where I want to go with this. Legend of the Baku, it varies a little bit. In China, I'm not sure all of them, but I know it started in China and moved to Japan. And in Japan, it developed the notion that a Baku eats nightmares. So it became a bit of like a legendary talisman that people would use to summon a Baku to eat their nightmares so that they could sleep well. And I've always had trouble sleeping, so I really loved the mythology. I learned most of the mythology actually from a little anime called How to Keep a Mummy. And in that show, each of the kids gets like this mythological legendary companion, and one of the boys got a Baku. Now in that one, it looks like the cutesy taper that I've seen. And the kid like had severe nightmares and was struggling to sleep, and there's this really sweet scene where it comes in. It consumes all like the shadowy nightmares around, and for the first time the poor guy gets some sleep. But I always liked that. I thought it was a really interesting kind of mythological creature. Now, like most things, if you've ever read fairy tales, there's usually a bad side to everything. So the things I found with the Baku were that if you summon it too many times, or if it's still hungry, it might eat all your good dreams too, like your aspirations and your will and all of that. But most of it seems pretty positive. And I like that. I like it when you have mythological creatures that aren't like, scary boogeymen. Alright. I also found a Baku. The first one I saw was in the Sanrio, I think it's Sanrio, story, My Melody. One of the villains is a Baku, but they don't really use his nightmare eating power other than he stores like nightmare notes or something. But he doesn't really like consume and destroy nightmares like the Bakus usually do. And he looks more like a teddy bear. They call him a tapir, but he looks like a teddy bear in that show, which is kind of cute. But not quite what I'm going for here. Alright. The hardest part about this is getting the clay warmed up. Especially since it is in the fall and going to be winter soon and it is cold. So, I think it's still fall, technically. The type of clay that I'm using is actually one of the higher end Sculpey ones. This is Sculpey 3. Now, the kids version, like the colored Sculpey clay that you see, it's not very good. I mean, it's fine for kids, but for like higher level sculpting, you don't really want to use that. It's kind of brittle. It does work, but they're more premium brands like Sculpey 3 is pretty good. My favorite type of clay is actually the Statler Fimo brand. Unfortunately, I believe it ships from Germany, and the shipping and stuff got really expensive a year or two ago, so I just haven't been using it because I wasn't able to like buy it in bulk. Like this stuff I can buy in bulk. I can buy like 8 pounds on Amazon, and art supply stores and stuff carry a lot of it. But the the regular brand that I like to use got way too expensive. Now I always like the Fimo Soft because I don't have a lot of strength in my hands. And the harder the clay is, the harder it is to like warm it up in your hands and condition it so that it's, you know, soft enough to mold. Firmer clays are great for small details, but I can't work with them terribly well because I end up bruising up my hands when I try to condition the clay. So yeah, I usually go for the softer brands. And Sculpey 3 is not listed as a soft, but it is. It's pretty flexible. So anyone who has like a firmer grasp or a harder time being delicate with stuff would probably do better with firmer clays. But me, I always opt for the much, I don't know if I want his nose to be that long. Let's roll some of this down. Yeah, I think I made his nose a little too big. Let me see here. Get some of that out. I want him to have a trunk, but I don't want it to be terribly long. I'm not going to go for like full elephant trunk. And I'm probably going to give him little baby tusks, I think. It's funny because when I was designing this, it suddenly occurred to me, he looks a little bit like the character from Inside Out, Bing Bong, her imaginary friend. The nice thing about the aluminum foil is if you make a mistake, you can just rip the aluminum foil out and start over. Clay is very forgiving. And this type of clay is called polymer. I don't think I mentioned that before, but it's an oven-baked clay. So it's very cheap and easy to get a hold of. And if you have an oven in your house or any sort of baking thing, you can cure it, and it's pretty durable. It will shatter if you drop it. Pieces are much more durable than I'd expect, but that kind of depends on the brand of clay you use. This one's pretty good. Some of them are more brittle than others. Some actually will crack when you bake them. Like there's a premium doll clay I tried once. I think it was Kato. Apparently it's great for doll making, but I never had much luck with it because it had a lot of surface cracks in it, and it ended up being very brittle. But sometimes too, the age of the clay can affect that. The older the clay, the more difficult it is to work with. tends to dry out. I don't usually use air dry clays because if you don't store them properly, they get ruined. They're very brittle. You know, there's just a lot of issues. I prefer the oven bake. Okay, so I got some of this head on there. Get rid of these. So this video is going to be fairly long. I know most of my sculptures like this take me 3 to 5 hours maybe. I'm not the best at chatting the whole time, but I'll try to come up with interesting things to talk about the way I make stuff. This part takes a while, unfortunately. Yeah. I have to remind myself to not worry about the details while I'm doing this. Okay. The hardest part is just smoothing out these pieces and rolling them out. Worst case scenario, if this is too hard, you can just stand up and be a little more effective. And this is a perfect example of why I don't use firm clays. Because with firm clays, this is really hard. And then I usually round it a bit in my hands. You don't ever want your clay to be too thick, else it will not bake properly. There we go. Hopefully the camera angle's pretty good. I spent a lot of time testing setups here. And I like this one pretty well, but I can't really tell until I've done a super long video. And yeah, this first video was recorded and not live because I still have a lot to learn for OBS. It's pretty cool, but there's a lot that I don't know. Still learning how to do the setup. But I might try to do a live painting video of this sculpture when I'm done. I might not, I'm not sure yet. It might just be a recorded video. Okay. But yeah, this wouldn't take quite as long, it's just so cold today. It's warm in my room, but the clay is still cold from where it was, so it takes a little longer than it should. Sculptures usually take me about 1.5 blocks, like a pound, maybe a pound and a half of clay, which is why I like to buy it in bulk. I usually do tinier sculptures, but I like doing the larger ones better. They're much more rewarding, a lot more fun. And I will be doing an edited, shorter version of this video, because I know it's pretty lengthy and not everyone likes enormously long videos. I do, but you know, kind of depends on the content. I know watching me do this for a long time may not be that exciting. But it will be a little bit more exciting once I get the actual detail work started. And I'm not just wrapping clay around aluminum foil. Okay. few more pieces and we should have the base started. I may have to get, I don't know, this should be enough clay. I might have to get another block, I'm not sure. That out of the way. Alright. Let's get a couple pieces off here. I had to sacrifice one of my kitchen butter knives for my art stuff. Unfortunately, my utensils keep migrating out of the kitchen and into my art supplies. Ugh. But that's okay. Kind of like my lovely steel rolling pin. I bought that for bread and now I use it for clay. Alright. Let's see here. I still have my old rolling pin, so it's fine. For the back piece on the neck. Just need a small piece. A little large still. There we go. Okay. And it looks like the camera is staying focused pretty well. I wasn't sure if it would or not. We'll see. I'll have to watch the video afterward and see how it does. For that little neck piece there. Yeah, this doesn't have to be too neat. I'm going to be doing textures and smoothing it out and stuff, because he's going to be kind of furry. So, yeah, we'll see how that looks. That's okay. Get the neck over here. Like this. So yeah, all of these nasty looking will be gone when I'm finished. The one thing sculpting has taught me is that everything looks terrible until you're done. So I like everything to look perfect immediately, and it does not. It takes a lot of time. Okay. Let's see, a couple more pieces. I may have to get the other block of clay out. That might not be enough. Let's see. Okay. I should probably do his head a little more flat. There we go. So we have a little bit of the taper look instead of an element. Okay. Let's flatten this piece. In the future, if this does well, I will do some randomized creatures. Like I'm working on a list of randomized traits, like different kinds of ears, different kinds of feet, and making basically my own chimeras of unusual creatures. But I think initially it might be kind of fun to do some random creatures from mythology. So it's one of my interests. It gives me something to talk about a little bit. But we'll see. Hold on there. Didn't smooth that out enough, did I? Here we go. There we go. Almost. Almost. There are lots of tools you can get to do things like smoothing out clay, but for some reason, I do have some, I'll be using some, but I just tend toward using my hands. I don't know why, that's just how I learned. Because I kind of taught myself when I was a kid. I used to play with Play-Doh all the time. And then my parents got me like the cheaper Sculpty stuff. So I kind of learned to sculpt basic things from that, and I've just not had tools until recently. So I'm very used to just using whatever's at hand. Tools are nice, but you'd be surprised. Random stuff like pencils and paintbrushes work really well. Alright. Got, let's see, that should be enough, then we should have our base done. Alright. Sorry about the angle change. I have to stand up to do this. I can't do it from my chair. I don't have enough strength to push down on it. I'm sorry if I'm blurring the camera out there. We just gotta smooth this out, make all the connections not visible. But I don't have to stress about it too much because, like I said, I'll be adding texture quite a bit, so it won't be too terrible. I gotta look how the end of a trunk looks like and what the end of a tapered nose looks like. I am not actually sure. Never really paid attention. So some of the tools you can use are like these. You tend to leave ridges, so I end up using my hands anyway. And you can see I like using the table, because it gets rid of all the handprints. The only caution about using soft clay is that if you have very warm hands, it will I had a certain clay that was like extremely soft, and it was very hot, it was like summer. And that clay, whenever I held it in my hand, it would actually take the impression of my skin. So I had the impression of like the patterns of my fingerprints and skin everywhere, and it kind of ruined the piece. So you don't want to do too soft of a clay. That is possible, or it'll deform super easy, and that's not good. But I definitely gravitate toward the softer clays. Although this clay is technically not listed as soft, it kind of is. Alright. It's still misshapen. The only thing that sucks about him having a trunk is that it's very hard to roll him the whole way over. I use the end of the table. I'm rolling him on the edge of the table so I don't hit his nose. Sorry, I can't really pull the camera over here. Alright, that's a little better. Not quite. You can see we're getting rid of a bunch of the imperfections. We don't need to be rid of all of them, I just need them to not look misshapen. Because right now he looks a little lopsided. Yeah, it's getting there. Looks better. There we go, right there. Yeah, I love this circle map so I know exactly where the camera can see. It's part of the reason I got it. Because I have a hard time remembering where the camera's visual is. Tendency to pull things out of frame when I did videos before. So this makes it a little easier. I know if it's in the circle, you guys can see it. Alright. It's still lopsided. This side still swells out a bit compared to this one. I think. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. That's pretty good for the base. Alright, doesn't look like much right now, but it will, I assure you. The other issue, and one of the reasons I keep my nails short, if you have long nails, you will be poking nail dents into everything. Incredibly annoying. Even the nails like this, I tend to do that, so I almost never have long nails because it ruins all of my artwork all the time. Super annoying. Alright, so this is what we got so far. Very basic. So first I usually start with the eyes. I will use a tool for this. Only let me pull up my reference photos. Sorry, I was thirsty. Alright. Let me pull up some of my reference photos here. See, the trunk is supposed to be based on an elephant, so let me see how elephants' eyes are positioned on their head. They're kind of... sideways on the trunk. Yeah, sideways. Kind of on the side of the head. Alright, and let me look at a taper. Yeah, similar. So kind of low and sideways on the head. So we're looking down here and down here. Kind of there positioned. Okay. And do not worry, those eyes will not look quite as bugged out when I actually put them inside the head and they're not just, you know, sitting outside. There we go. Let's see, I have the pupil You look, these pupils aren't quite center, so you have to get them perfectly center or they look a little weird. Alright. Okay. Alright, so now he has eyes. And whenever we do eyes, we have to do eyelids so that it doesn't look like his eyes are just stuck on. Eyelids are super easy, actually, once I finish messing with this stuff that I'm gonna have to redo anyway. Alright. So whenever I do eyelids, I just take a piece of clay, roll it out with my hand. We're gonna do both of the top lids, so cut it in half. And then I flatten it a little bit. You can also use something like this to flatten it evenly. So you have two eyelids, and then not quite the same. So when one side's fairly evenly rounded, you just flatten the other side like that. Just pinch it so it's thin. Curve it a little bit. So it looks like these guys have lots of, they have dents on their eyes. I might have to, pinch his nose up a little more so I can get in between the elephant and taper look. We'll see. Okay. So I've got one side super thin, one kind of thick. I'll then take this guy and I will do something like this. Blend it in. Like that. Now this is where tools do come in handy if your fingers are kind of large. Mine are pretty small, but every once in a while, tools are handy. One eyelid. See, we went down to about that level. I think this one's a little too big. Yeah, I'm gonna have to chop it a little bit, but that's fine. We're gonna take off this much of that piece, just so that our eyes are roughly the same. Yeah, because if your eyes get a little too different from each other, it looks really weird. Sure visually it looks similar. That looks close. It's usually not perfect, but I need it to be similar enough that it's not. And then I usually, if you want cute, you have to open it up here around the front, the middle of the eye. If you want it to look angry or sinister, you pull that down and it kind of looks mean. If you push it up, it'll look cuter and it'll be much more rounded. If you push it up too much, it looks kind of sad, which I think looks cute, so we always go for that. Pull the edges down a little, push that up a little. Here we go. He looks a little sad now. Just a little bit, not too much. Makes him look cuter. Alright. For the bottom lid, I think I'm going to do a really thin piece just so that it looks normal, because I don't want to lose the roundness of the eyes here. So I'm just going to do that. And then, smear it in a little bit. Cooperate. And a lot of things like this, if you don't have the tools, you can use the end of like pens that don't have ink in them, or toothpicks. I have some toothpicks here too. I like toothpicks for some things. But yeah, there's lots of little random things, the end of pencils, paintbrushes, lots of things that are similar in shape. Let's see here. There we go. Alright, we gotta do the other side here. Yeah, I like doing the eyes first because it's just that satisfying. Oh, it's starting to look like something now. Because if I don't do the eyes first, I will go insane because it's like, no, it looks terrible. It looks like a lump of clay. So it's more, not always the smartest thing to do first because it gets messed up really easy. But it just makes me feel better, so I always do the eyes first. And then I get to do the expression too, so that it makes me feel like I'm actually making something. Yeah, because without the eyes, it just doesn't look satisfying at all. Alright, I think I'm gonna add some clay to the forehead here because I kind of want to do in between. Like I said, the traditional says it's an elephant's trunk, so I'm trying to do in between a tapir and an elephant for the head. And the tapir's head's a little bit different than the elephant's head, but I think I need to have the forehead line a little bit higher here. Oh, I can use this piece. So whenever I add clay pieces, what I usually do is I shape it the way I want, like this, roughly. And then I like pinch out all the edges so they're like paper thin, so that when I go to add it, I can just blend it in real easy. Now it is important to remember that this is not kiln clay. Kiln clay is very different. I've only worked with it once or twice in my life. I was very little too. But I know with kiln clay you have to worry about things exploding and stuff. You don't really have to worry about that with this. The only thing you don't want to do is, like, if you trap a ton of air pockets inside your clay, it can bubble out. But that's rare that that happens. Very rare that that happens. And you bake it at a fairly low temperature, so this clay is much easier to work with than kiln clay. But yes, keep in mind the rules and stuff that I am doing does not always work very well with other types of clay. But it works very well with this specifically. There we go. I think that looks good. There we have a little bit of more of the taper look there. I had to look up the pronunciation of taper because I couldn't figure out if it was tapir or taper or tapper. But it is tapir, or taper, sorry. Taper, just like clothing or pants legs that taper, that go to a narrow point. It's taper. I learned so many words by reading. I am never sure of how to pronounce things. It's kind of, I also had to look up the word chimera because I've been pronouncing it chimera. Or no, it is chimera. It's chimera. It's chimera. I've been mispronouncing it all my life. And then I looked it up this morning before I did the video. It's like, I want to say this right. It's a chimera. Although I still swear I've heard it pronounced chimera. But I think it's chimera. But now every time I say it, I'm just like, am I saying that right? Is that the right pronunciation? This is what happens when you're a bookworm and you learn everything by reading. Because nobody is pronouncing it. You just guess. Alright. I think we're getting kind of where I want for that. Now the temptation here is to add the ears because, again, as soon as you add the ears, you're like, oh, this is looking like something. It makes me feel better. But unfortunately, the ears tend to get messed up very quickly. So it's probably better if I wait on those and add them later. But he's going to have cute little ears. Alright. So we have our basic head shape there. Let's see that. He's starting to look like something. Alright, now a mouth. Do it like an elephant mouth. Let me see. Ah. Okay, so if I have a little elephant mouth, it should be a tiny little mouth right here. Because the Baku does have elephant tusks as well. Now I'm gonna do little like baby tusks because I want him to be cute, and I kind of want him to have like his paw in his mouth up here, like he'll be holding his paw up this way. So I don't want to have gigantic tusks. I may have to change my plans. Things change as I work on this, but for now, we're gonna go with that. So I think I'm gonna do the mouth next. And then we'll do the tip of his nose in a little bit. I gotta figure out what kind of nose I'm doing here. Okay. So just a teeny little flat piece here. Yeah, I'll be working with him sitting up, which is not the best view for you guys. But he will be sitting, so he'll be sitting like this. At some point I may see if I can angle the camera this direction, because that will give you a little bit better better viewpoint, because it's akin to my viewpoint. But unfortunately you angle the camera too much and then it's in my face and I can't work, so hopefully this angle is good. I've been playing with that for a while and I wasn't really happy with any of the angles that I came up with. So when we add pieces, you shape them, the rough shape that you want, and then you pinch the edges out to be paper thin. In this case, we're not going to completely blend it because we want that line of the mouth. So I'll be doing it kind of like this. So we can blend in the back piece here, but not the front. This is honestly the main tool I use right here. Just this little rounded edge, because it gets into tiny pieces better than, a little better than my hands can. It doesn't blend quite as well as fingers. Got a little bit of a mouth. I'm going to pull it open just a tad because we're going to make his tusks now, because the Baku has, or at least the traditional one, has the tusks of an elephant. So we're going to give him cute little baby tusks. Alright, let's put him aside over here for a bit. Now he's looking a lot like Bing Bong, which I love Bing Bong from Inside Out. It's very cute. I kind of like the babyish look, maybe a little bigger. Let's make them a little bigger. Tusks and teeth are super easy. You can, when I do textures over this, I'll probably give the teeth a little bit of a texture, just because they tend to have very faint like lines on them. But teeth are pretty easy. And then because this is going in the mouth, I'm going to do this little like almost insert tab, if you will, so that I have a way to stick it into his mouth. And so we gotta have a second one roughly the same size. Yeah. Roughly the same size, a little too big. faces like these are great, but they're a little annoying because it's super easy to smack them and deform them very easily if you're not careful. So we're going to give him one tusk here. Just a little. How do elephants' tusks come out of their mouth? Hold on. Reference photos. It's kind of actually further up. It's like up here. Right there. Okay, so I think we'll do it like that, where it's on the back of his mouth. And I don't think we're supposed to blend it in. And then here, is that the right spot? Look. I think we'll do the little line. That's kind of cute. Okay. So you can also get these little like soft point things. They're very useful for this, but you can also use toothpicks for stuff like this. These work a little better than toothpicks. But for like hair patterns, toothpicks are amazing. Okay, he's got tusks now. You can see his face. Gonna make his eyes a little cuter. Make them a little rounder, more open. There we go. Yeah, if you ever want something to look babyish and cute, give it big eyes. Because babies have large eyes, so we just automatically associate that with cute. Just don't do it too big because then it looks alien-like and weird, but you know, there's a level for everything. But yes, typically larger eyes makes things look younger and cuter. And the more open it is, the more happy and surprised. Happy or surprised it looks. Yeah, because if it's surprised, it's like the middle of the eye that's open, I think. Yeah, so like this part. But if you bring this down a little like that, then it just looks like generically happy. Okay. Think I should do the end of the nose. Elephant nose. Let's see what the end of an elephant nose looks like. I kinda know, but I kinda don't trust myself either. Alright. Let me see what the end of a taper nose looks like too. I think it's similar. Okay, very similar, but it doesn't go in as much. So the taper's got more like a doggy nose kind of end. So let's see if we can do in between. Kind of in between the two. Ow, my hand cramps up. I'm sorry, I make sound effects when I do things. I'm just like... Okay. So the elephant nose is more like that. Only it goes inward. And the taper has almost a dog-like nose in the end. Like it. Where's my little... Oh, there it is. Okay. Kinda in between the two. Okay. So we got the head part of it anyway. So now I think do the ears next. One of my cats is yelling for me. Ah. Okay. So it says it has rhinoceros ears. And they're not small exactly, but they're kind of like, kind of pointy and folded over. So when I make ears, I usually try to make them look the same. So what I'll do is I'll make a tab like this and I'll do the end of each ear until they look roughly the same, then I cut it down the middle. So they're kind of, let's make it wide here. Looks like they're kind of folded over. Like they're very deep and folded. Alright. That piece is a little thin. And these kind of pieces are typically the most fragile, just because of how thin they are. Yes, cut it like this. Looks kind of like this, but I think they need to be bigger. Maybe not. I don't know. Kind of cute when they're small. I don't know. Big ears are kind of cute too. Let me look at the picture of the Baku again. They have big ears or little ears. Traditional Baku. No, traditional, not shopping. Okay, so they have fairly long ears in all the old drawings. I think I can still use these pieces. Just kind of elongate them a bit, like that. So they go on like this. He's looking very elephant-like. I think if I made the ears bigger, he would look a lot more like an elephant, and it's not really quite what I want to go for. So we'll go with this size. I think it's okay. Maybe I should make them bigger. It would be cute. Okay, I'm making them bigger. Never mind. I changed my mind. They're gonna be bigger. We're gonna double the size. Big ears. Bigger ears also make things look cute. So. Condition the clay, warm it up a bit, and then make everything into a big, round fold it over. Not quite. Not quite. So these types of ears do best if you just make almost a triangle, like a very rounded triangle, and then do the points, and then wrap them together. Alright, now that I have the shape, I can stretch it out a bit, make it bigger. Much bigger. Do they point down or up? Okay, both. They do both, but it looks like more of them go up, so we're gonna put it right there. Oh, and I forgot to do the thing. The paper thin edges thing. Pinch the edges, till we can actually attach it to the, that'll work now. There we go. Yeah, just use a toothpick. Toothpicks work well for blending too, but you usually have to go over it again with your hand a little bit. There's one ear. I do want to poke a hole in the ear. Where did the little hole go? Okay. Just, give it some depth and the appearance of an actual ear. It looks like that. I don't have to go too deep because I'll be painting it in black, so it'll look fairly realistic-ish, kind of. I mean, everything I do is a little bit cutesy and fantasy, but I'm trying to go for some more realistic details lately. Okay, we gotta pinch the edges. Pinch the edges. Because if you don't, it's a pain to attach. Okay. Let's see, that's like roughly the same. Close to the eye, right there. Okay, I think that's the right spot. Right spot? I think so. Go away, tools. I realize my desk is slightly slanted because pieces keep rolling. Oops. I have no one to blame but myself because I built the thing. Alright. Did I forget to... I thought I blended this, but oh well. It doesn't matter. It got blended anyway. Alright. Wind it up slowly. Mimic the other ear a bit and do this, and then poke a hole, poke another hole. Pretty deep in there. Okay. I feel like this one ear's a little bit thinner and bigger, so it didn't shape them quite the same. There we go. He's got ears now. Yay. There's your cute ears. Ah, and my nail just poked. I need to trim my nails. They're short, but they're still too long. Just poked a thing in his mouth. Oops. Alright. We may have to start the feet next. Let me think. So that he can sit up. Kind of sit up. A little bit. It's gonna make him harder to show to the camera, but alright. If I make him sit still like that. We got that going. His head's pretty cool. I'm gonna add some curlicue pieces of hair because I've noticed that while there's no mention of like a lion or anything, there's a mention of bears and other stuff, and he's shown as very furry. Most of them have like long flowing pieces of hair that like come down on his forehead and down his back. Not quite like a mane, but close to it. So I'm gonna make some cute little curlicues on his head. But I want to do that probably last. I think I should probably do his feet first. Alright, so now we gotta do legs, and the Baku has the legs of a tiger. So we're gonna give him feet that kind of curl up and sit up in the air, and then I can show cute little kitty toe beans. And then when I do painting later, we'll paint them like tiger stripes on the legs. The body seems to have a dappled appearance. I think I mentioned that before, because one thing said it was like the body of a bear, but not all of them said that. Only one of the things I found said that. And then every single like more colorful drawing I've seen of the Baku, they always give the body a dappled or almost cheetah-like spotted effect. Not quite like a cheetah, but something like that. Or a leopard, I guess. I don't know, the spotted creature. I think it's a leopard I'm thinking of, maybe. I know it's like the little C-shaped spots. A bunch of them had that kind of appearance. So, I'm not sure what that's more of the painting side of things, which I will be doing later. But yeah, I'm not sure why. There wasn't really an explanation. That just seems to be the way that most of the time it's drawn. Yeah, so I think I'll stick his legs kind of like outward this way, so I can show off cute little paws. Because I kind of want him to have like one paw partially in his mouth and the other one holding onto his toes. Because I think that'll look cute. Kind of a very babyish pose. But we'll see. I almost wanted to give him a little paper or a sign that said sweet dreams, but I couldn't really find a way to work that in. So we'll see. If I can come up with a way to do it, I might. Come on, warm up, clay. Let me work with you. Yeah, this is the hardest part for me, warming the clay up. It is so stubborn. It does not like to. And this is why I can never work with firm clays. I do not know how people do it. I think some people actually condition their clay in a blender. I remember reading about that somewhere. I don't know if everyone does that, if it's just like one person, but I don't really have a spare blender to use for that. But yeah, it's conditioning the clay to be moldable is such a pain. And this isn't even that difficult of a clay to work with. He's pretty chunky, so I should probably give him chunky little legs. Figure out how I'm going to attach this to the body too, because I think I want to make them fairly short little legs. So that tends to look cuter, and it's easier to attach, and fewer long pieces you have out from the body, the less chance that they'll break off. like chibi type designs are actually great because they are much more durable because it's more like a solid hunk of something rather than yeah. So I think this is kind of what I'm going for with the leg size, something like that, so I can tap it under there. And all right, that's a good size. I'll mimic that. Smooth it out a bit. Just paper out the edges that are going to attach. Make the paw section bigger because I want him to have big paws. Okay. It's roughly the right shape. Let's see now. Tiger paws. Cats have 4 toes, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4, and then the central bean, toe beans. So I need to divide this into 4 because bears have 5. Bears are different. Whereas cats and dogs tend to have that, like, what's it called, a dew claw, or the piece on the back of their leg that's higher than the rest. They almost always have that. And he does have the body of a bear, so I could do bear claws, but bear claws are hard. They're just the proportions of the 5th toe doesn't always look as cute to me. Well, there's one leg. Alright, gotta warm this piece of clay up now. I'm gonna shape the paw better. I'll actually do the indents for like the center. Actually, I can do that now. Toothpick, very useful tool. Like this. Because then the main, almost triangle type toe piece goes in the center here, and then we have all the little toeses. Go there. And the pattern, the texture on this is not a big deal because it's going to be furry textured, so I'll be doing something like this the whole way around it. So all of the imperfections will be gone because you'll only see the fur texture. So yeah, do a basic shape like this, and then I'll add the toe beans. Alright, now I gotta warm up this piece of clay. My least favorite part. Conditioning clay. I think he's turning out pretty cute. Wasn't sure because I haven't sculpted. I mostly sculpt cute kitty cats and mice and things, but he's looking pretty good. Come on, clay. Function. Okay. There we go. It's warming up now. I'm making pretty good progress. I see I've only been working for like an hour, so that ain't bad. A lot of my sculptures take considerably longer, so yeah, this will probably end up being 2 to 3 hours, I think, which is pretty good. Some of my more complex ones, I think I've taken up to 5 hours. So if I can make this in like 2 hours, that's not bad. But it might take me a little longer. Who was sending me a text? Let's study tonight. Okay. I gotta read chapters for a Bible study. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Not quite. I need to make it a little thicker. A little thicker, and then we gotta shape the leg the same way. Oh, yeah. I'm tired. Alright. That is roughly the same shape. Yeah, I wanted his feet to be like way out here. Spread out, kind of like a little kid, you know? Sitting like this. But I think I will make them a little shorter. If you want to make something shorter in clay, you just stick it on the table and smash it. It's very effective. Just, there we go. A little bit shorter. A little bit shorter still. There we go. Alright. Gotta smooth this out a tad. Stick it on. Okay. Now we gotta do the toes. First one right in the middle. Like that. Now he's got 2 toes. And the second one right here. Third dent right there, so now he's got 4 toes. Okay. There we go, we got 2 little toe feet. Alright, I gotta add the toe beans still, but for now, let's do the feet. There we go, 1 foot added. Bend it a little bit. There we go. And other foot added. Right there. The lovely thing about clay is if you don't get it quite right, it's very forgiving. You can just sort of brute force it because it's very moldable, very pliable. A lot of other art forms are not this forgiving. And if you ever mess up with clay, you can just smash the whole thing and start over. It's very cathartic. In my room by myself, I suddenly realize how loud all of the sounds are. Because I hear nothing but me talking, and it's very unusual, and then I drop something, I'm like, man, that was loud. There we go. He's got feet. Alright, we have feet now. Yeah, you can see, he's got feet. Now we gotta add toe beans. This is like one of my favorite things to do. Toe beans. Well, it looks like we're using almost exactly a block and a half. That's like a pound and a half of clay, I think. Maybe, something like that. It's a lot of clay. That's why it's good to use as much as you can of the aluminum foil. Let's see. First things first, we gotta make our little central paws. So to that, you just gotta make a little triangle for the toe beans. Triangle and kind of round it a bit, and then you always have this slight, almost heart-like. It's almost like a really soft heart, actually. Like a really, really bolded, or not bolded, but like smoothed out heart. It's not got sharp edges, rounded, I guess. It's like a little rounded out heart shape. Almost done with all the main pieces. We just got to get the tail and the hands in there, and then yeah, after that we just got to do some detail work, which that takes a bit, the fur patterns and such. Yeah, they look like two really soft little hearts. Or I guess hearts this way. And then you have to plop them upside down on the foot, like that. And these I tend to like mush them, but I don't blend them in because I want to keep that edge. Adding toe beans just makes something that much cuter, just automatically. I don't make the rules, but that's how it is. Alright, so he's got little heart toe beans now. Alright. Now we gotta do the toe beans, actually. And for these, I usually do them alternating pieces, because you just need a little round piece like this. It's like that. Or I guess I'll do this side one here first. No. Like that. Oh yeah, I usually do alternating sides. The tiger paws, I think they have like the black lines where they would normally have the claws, the retractable claws, so I might do little indentations to remind myself to paint that. This one's bigger. Roughly the same size, okay. So you just two little circles roughly the same size. Then you elongate it a bit like an oval. A little bit like, almost more like an egg shape, I guess. And then you just flatten it. Here's two more. I think the way that I position the front paws, they're gonna not be visible, so I don't have to make more. But I really want his paw in his mouth, or at least up next to his mouth. Okay. Little toe bean right there. Toe beans. My favorite thing. Okay. This is not the most realistic way to do them, but it is the cutest. Okay. Last little toe bean right there. There we go, we got toe beans. Oh, I think I didn't sculpt this one right. Hold on. It used to have a little more shape to it. Bigger. There we go. Now toe bean. There, he's got toe beans. Okay, so tigers tend to have this little indentation right there where their claws come out. So I think we'll do that. I mean, that's more of a detail piece, so I should probably not be doing it right now, but whatever. It'll be fine. Biggest issue with doing tiny details early on is that you tend to pick the model up a lot, and then, or the figure, I guess, and then you'll accidentally smash all of the details that you did. I have that issue when I do fur patterns and stuff, if I do them before I finish the rest of the piece. Because then you pick it up and then it smashes. Which, if you have firm clay, it won't, but I only work with the softer stuff, so it's one of the downsides. That doesn't look good. Okay, so this is what we got right now. Mr. Baku. I gotta do his arms, his tail, and then the furry, feathery stuff around his head. Okay. He looks very much like an elephant now, but that's fine. That is part of what he's supposed to look like. I kind of like the way the one ear accidentally curled back. Like that. Hold on. You can see it like that. I'll see if I can mimic that here. I think it makes it cuter. Okay. I don't know why I'm so tired. Alright, what am I making? The arms? Oh, I could put the one paw on his face and the one to his belly. That way I don't have to. Yeah, I might have to go grab my other clay. Because I think the arms are going to take up all of this. Almost. Yeah, hold on. This one has a bit gloves make a little bit more difficult. Let me stick them up here so you can see them. Yeah, I'm gonna design the hands so that I don't have to do the paw details again. I mean, I do like them, but I think it'll look cuter if he's got his one on his face and then the other one on his belly. So, shape it like this. Although it'd be cute if it was on his toes. I don't know. We'll see. So I don't want this video to take too terribly long. If I can keep it under 3 hours, 2 hours, roughly 2 hours, it looks like we're heading for right now. Kind of see what I'm looking at here. Trying to give him a little arm that's like this, across his tummy, or maybe down here like that. My first thought was on his toes. I thought that'd be cute, but I think I might just go for this, because this is simple, and then I'll do the other one over here, like on his face maybe, so that he looks kind of cute. I do want to kind of try to semi-do the joints in the arm. So I usually do like a little ball right here for the elbow, thin it out a bit, and then have another spot like for the wrist, where the wrist would kind of be, like right here. Even though it's very cutesy, I was like, I kind of want it to look anatomically correct, like that, kind of like that, so you can see the distinction. And then this becomes his shoulder. Alright. Okay, that's one arm. Let's get the other one going. Oh. What time is it? Okay. Let's see, I think I didn't pull enough clay for the paw here. Maybe I did. Here, I just need to work a little more into it. Okay, it'll be fine. Cut off a bit more of this. It's a little too much with the way the arm moves. Okay, I'm gonna do more angles like this, so that he looks like he's got his hand on his face, like this a bit. It's going to do our toe separation again. One right in the middle. Like that. Kind of. And one right here. See where his paw is going to his face. I need to do little indentations. The other one you can't see. Alright. Now we gotta blend in the shoulder a bit. And this is where the toothpick comes in handy for like the joints between here that are super hard to reach. But you can kind of force it with the toothpick. There we go. Sorry, you probably can't see that too well, but there's no way I can really show on the camera. But I'm just smoothing out the joints here between all of the pieces. And this is the main thing that the tools actually come in handy for, is this. But you can also use the end of paintbrushes. They work pretty well. Okay. So there we have our one hand up here, slightly bent, so he's got his paw up to his face. And we're going to have the other one on his tummy, but we got to do, where's my toothpick? Okay. Toothpick is honestly one of my favorite tools. It's the cheapest, I have a ton of them, and it's very effective, very small. It's great for small details. I will probably be using it again when I do the fur texture. But toothpick is great. Favorite tool. All right. On his tummy. I think I'll move it down just a tad like that. Yeah. So now he's like this. Yep. It's pretty cute. Alright. I think the little Baku's looking pretty nice. You can also use the end of a butter knife to do stuff like this too. It's pretty handy. Basically anything that has a small piece that'll fit into the crevices that you're trying to smooth out. It's the only reason that the round piece is useful is that it does that pretty decently well, but still, hands are better. Like, your finger is just so much better at smoothing things than most of the tools that I've worked with, so there we go. go. We got him like this now. Ta-da. Oh, wait, let me see if I can make him go the right ways up. There we go. Right ways up. Is that pretty good? Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna do some details. Tail's probably gonna be last. He has an oxtail, and that's the last bit of like mythological stuff that I need to do. But I want to give him some furry pieces around his head. So typically what I do for that is I'll just start attaching little pieces like this to his head. And then I'll go over them with the toothpick just to line them and give him like that hair texture. But every time I looked at one of the pictures of the Bakus, they had like, with the exception of a few, most of them had almost mane-like pieces of hair, just like curls and twirly pieces of hair all over. So I might see what I can do to kind of imitate that a little bit. Kind of give him a little, not a mane, but like a little bit of curls. I might make it just with this clay actually. I might have just barely enough. But I kind of wanted to do the pattern all down his back, so I don't know. I might have to get more. I have another 2 blocks I think downstairs. Giving him curly pieces of hair. Think of how to really do this to make it look right. I think I'll do it down his back and then maybe give him like a scarf kind of a fur around his neck. Not quite a mane, but along that pattern. I need to make these more curly Q-ish because usually the fur pattern's like super curly that I saw. But yeah, I'm gonna work it down his back. Actually, let me make this one curl this direction. There we go. Or maybe I shouldn't curl it as much. Maybe I should do like the curly Q pieces for the beginning, and then kind of make it ridged for the rest of it. It's gonna be kind of, yeah, like this. I don't know. I think they also had like cutesy little pieces on the side of their face too. almost like a moon, but not quite. I think I'm gonna give him a few little... here, maybe I can do it almost like a tiger. That would make sense if I did the fluffy pieces like a tiger that stick out this way. Let me try that. So when I do fur patterns, I usually take a toothpick and just do this a bunch of times. And then when you paint it and dry brush, it looks like fur. So we got a little bit of fur under his ear here. I didn't think about doing the other side. Oops. I should have scored the other side. Going on here like that. Okay. I'm gonna try to do one on the other side. This time I'm gonna score both sides and not be dumb and forget to do that. So now we got this. It's got little fur pieces. So I think I'm gonna do a long thin ridge down his back to tie into the hair. That way I can kind of avoid doing like the curly cues the whole way down, because I think that looks a little weird. I'll have some of them here and then I'll tie it into the back like this. And these pieces, they don't blend as well just because I usually like them to stick out, so I just blend them a little bit so they're sticking on there. But I'm gonna texture them, so we don't want too much of it in there. So just pinch the edges out a little. And oops. Just hoping I could do that. Yeah, it is kind of getting curly there. Hold on. Like that. There. That's a little straighter. And we'll do like a ridge of fur down his back. I think I just put nail prints into his hand. Oops. And then this will be where his tail attaches later. But first we gotta do all the fur patterns. Okay. First of all, I want to do... Oh wait, I think I want to do a scarf around his neck so he's got like a puffy... Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to get my other clay. But yeah, I'm gonna do like a scarf around his neck so that he has some puffiness around there on his front so he's not completely just blank in the front. So when I do something like that, I usually do like teased out edges uneven and then pinch the edges we're gonna blend like this, almost like a little bib. And then I'll wrap it around his neck, around this part of his neck, and then blend the top piece in a bit. Just a bit, because then we're going to... Okay. And then we're going to make it all textured in fur. So this... Where did my toothpick go? Oh, there it is. I'm gonna do... I can also smooth these out a bit. I'm gonna have fur texture on the rest of the body as well, but I want to have a thicker texture on this so that it stands out more. And the easiest way to do that is with the toothpick. He's got a little ruffle in front of his chest. Okay, I'm gonna go run and get my other clay because I'm gonna need a little more to do his Oops, I messed that up, didn't I? Blend the clay. I don't want to see that. There we go. Where'd my toothpick go? I accidentally didn't blend part of the fur on the top. Okay. Okay, I gotta go grab some more clay. Gonna add some little ridges here to his nose. Not a ton, just enough to hint at the elephant idea. Because I kind of went more taper-like on his head. But it still looks pretty elephant-like, so I think I did alright. There we go. Alright. I can show you kind of where we're going. He's got his nose. Okay. Put his paw back on his face. Alright, I gotta go grab another thing with clay. I'll be right back. If you can hear the faint squeaking, that is my guinea pig. I came up here and I heard her making noises, so I don't know if she's been loud enough that you can hear it or not, but her name is Jingle. Alright, we got more clay. I also think I'm going to add a little bit of a fur tuft on the elbows. Just a tiny one. Just a little bit. And then I'll cover it with the fur pattern in a second. Boy, I'm so tired. Oh, almost done. Yeah, I'm almost at 2 hours. I think I'm going to do this one in roughly 2 hours, which is pretty good. Usually I take 3 to 5. So I'm finishing this surprisingly fast, which probably because usually when I sculpt, I listen to things or I do other things that distract me. And I don't have that because I'm talking today, so that's probably why I'm doing it so much faster. Alright, so we have that now. So I think I'm going to do the fur pattern and then we'll do the tail at the very last. We'll start with this because these need to have a really thick fur pattern, really deep. Yeah, for the rest of it, I may see if I can do it with a brush, so it's a little bit lighter than this. But for these pieces, I want the fur to be really distinct and noticeable. Details here. That one's good. I apologize if I got quieter. I had to step over here so I'm further from the microphone. It seems to pick up my voice quite well though, so I'm not too concerned. Alright. this is where the details get difficult because it is very easy to smash the details you've already done while you're doing these. So I tend to work from the top down. I start on the head and then I work my way down. But like currently I just realized I almost grabbed the little scarf piece where I did all the fur details and it would have smashed them out if I'd done that. So, very easy to ruin your work with clay. I mean, it's easy to put it back in, but it's also very easy to destroy by mistake if you're not careful. I think I'm gonna there we go, hold it like this. We're gonna smooth these edges out a little better. Kind of like that. There we go. Just so that I have something to work with. The tail goes there. This is fairly simple, but it's tedious. Because we're going to have to do fur pattern over the whole thing, so. But not as stark and deep and contrasted as this pattern. Not all of them had this fur, but a lot of them did, so I felt like I needed to do the fur pattern there, I forgot. Sorry if I'm making the focus go weird. Hopefully the camera can keep up with me. Alright, super fast and easy. There for the tail. Alright, we got fur on his back now. Okay, and on the front. Then we just gotta I'm gonna do these super deep too. So that they look like noticeable little fur tufts. I should probably give him a belly button. Hold on. Yeah, like that. A little tiny one. Yeah, like that. There. Okay. Here we go. He's got tufts on his arms. He's got that. He's got that. Now, let me see. bristle can usually give a very mild brush effect. I'm not sure if the camera can see the difference. I may want to do more than this though, because it's so mild. But yeah, I think I'll definitely do this around the face and on the back of the ears. Smaller one, and then use slightly bigger to do the rest of the body. So it's not as thick as these, but kind of like this. And you can probably see that texture a little better now. It's a little bit not as deep as the one I was doing before, but it's a little deeper than just the brush. Yeah, so this will take me a little while here. Not a horribly long time, but just a little bit. And this is why I wasn't too concerned about smoothing it out, because I knew I was going to be doing this texture everywhere, so that's not as concerning. If something isn't, perfectly smooth, it's going to get roughed over anyhow, so. Good, looks like we're going to be roughly at 2.5 hours now. Not bad. Not bad at all. So just got to finish the back here, do this pattern, and then we add the tail and we're done with our little Baku, at least for the first part. And then I'll have a later section with the painting, because that'll take me a bit. That usually takes an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3, depending on how many details. He might take a little longer because I do have some ideas. It might take a bit. He's coming to life a lot more. I think the texture helps quite a bit. It's just very boring and time consuming. Let me sit down again. And the arms I'm doing it at a slight angle because I want to accentuate the tiger stripes that I'm going to be doing for the arms, since they have the legs of tigers, so that should look cute, hopefully. I'll have to look at tiger patterns when I do the painting because I don't quite remember the exact angle. I think they're done like perpendicular to the legs. The tiger stripes are usually perpendicular to the legs, I think. And then I think I will do softer fur patterns on the belly. Alright. Yeah, so we'll do the legs cockeyed as well, or cockeyed slanted as well. Alright. It's almost done. And then we'll do the legs like this. as you can see, I smashed the belly button that I made because I was holding him. There we go, it's back again. And then okay, a couple of these. First up to his tummy. He's pretty furry now. He's got all the texture I think I want to put on it. Smooth out some spots here. There. This is here. I don't know how well you can see the texture. If I'm moving back and forth, I think you can see it. And then I'm going to use the brush, which does the super fine texture. It won't show up too much until I paint. And when I paint, you'll see it really well. So we got that. Alright, now we got to use the little bit of extra clay that I brought. Well, some of it. Give him a long oxtail. Okay. The issue with tails is they're very fragile, so I always tend to tuck them in next to the body somehow. But let's see what I can do with this guy. Especially since it's an oxtail, it's supposed to be kind of thin. So, long and thin. So again, we pinch the edges to make it so you can attach it easily. I'm gonna rotate him around here and put it right there where we left a spot. Actually, let me do the texture real quick on the tail. Where's my brush? Texture really quick. Make it a little longer. Okay, now we'll attach it to the base here. Like this. No, I don't want to smash any of my details. Alright. Attach it like this. Blend it into the existing fur trail here. Give it little pieces up here. Maybe it's got like a tuft of fur right on top, like that. Alright, so now we got his tail. Now we gotta make it an oxtail and not a rat's tail, so I'm going to tuck it into the side of his body like this so that it's not going to break off on me. And then we're going to make a tuft of fur for the oxtail. Okay. And where's my toothpick? Flatten it a little bit and do this. be a little bit more haywire, I think. A little more unkempt. I don't want it to be like the neat little cowtail kind of look. I want it to be a little more misshapen. Like, yeah, like that. And then we'll have it tucked up to his arm, or his leg rather, not his arm. I'm getting tired. Alright. And maybe I should just tuck it against his leg like this. Nah, because that'll break. Over his leg's the best spot. And then pressed against his body so we can have it done like that. Covers up the one tiger leg, but he's got his arms, so I still will see the tiger pattern, I guess. It doesn't matter too much. Okay. And there you have it. We have our little Baku. I may have to touch up a few details when I take him downstairs, but to bake him. But yeah, he's pretty cute. We have the ears of the rhinoceros, the elephant eyes, the in-between nose that's like an elephant and a tapir. We're going to have tiger paws, which you can't tell too much yet, but when we get to painting him, he will be much more obviously tiger-like there. We got cute little toe beans. We got the ridge of fur that they always do down the back, and I think he's pretty cute. Anyway, it looks like I did that almost exactly 2.5 hours. I was about 5 minutes from 2.5 hours, so pretty fast for a sculpture. We'll hopefully paint him soon. I don't know when, but within the next week, and I will attempt to do a video. It may or may not be live. I'm still kind of learning how to do that. And I like to do things well, so this was my first test video. If you liked it, thank you so much for watching. I will be doing clipped versions of it as well, because I know most people don't watch extremely long videos. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you liked it and enjoyed seeing a little Baku be made. I will be painting him soon.